All right, welcome to Double Down Trent, the podcast where two elementary school buddies are talking sports, gambling, and pop culture. My name is Ryan. On today's show, we're welcoming back recurring guests, Jade and Francis. What's up, gals?
Hello, how are you?
I'm very good. I feel like that was weird. I called you gals. I don't know. I just said guys, gals. I don't know. That was weird.
It was also weird that I said hello.
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 I think that's your signature entrance. It was hello.
Yeah, true. Yep.
Well, thanks for coming on. I was going to say, appreciate you guys coming back on. What we're doing today is dissecting the third episode of Game of Thrones, the Battle of Winterfell. We've got a lot to talk about. You guys are a lovely situation right now. You got a little Wine Wednesday going down, so it should be very entertaining.
Yeah. Cheers.
All right, so let's start off just instant reactions, kind of best and worst of the episode, and really, the main takeaways from the episode. So who wants to start?
Yeah, I think Francis, you had some good points because I also was going off of what you said.
Oh, yeah. Overall, I felt like it was a good episode. I felt like the battle was very long, but good. We definitely felt like the waves of the battle, like the ups and the downs. Sometimes you were really fearing for the main characters' lives, which I thought was great.
Yeah.
I do feel like a lot hinged on the White Walkers throughout the whole season. And then it just was kind of anticlimactic. Yeah. So it was like, wow, that ended really quickly.
But not quickly. It was still an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah. But I think just for me, I felt like almost this could have been a season 7 season finale.
Yeah.
And then we could have kicked off season 8 with all of the manipulation and the politicking that Game of Thrones is known for. So yeah, mixed feelings.
I'm with you on that because, they built the White Walkers up. They built the Night King up to be the big bad of this show. And it started from the very first episode, and it was a presence throughout the entire show. And then it led to this big battle, which we all thought, was going to be the turning point of the show. And ultimately, it seemed really easy to kill the Night King besides, the fire that the dragon was unable to do. So it almost makes you think, why did we do all of this? And I agree, Fran, that felt like a natural end to season 7. If the White Walkers and the Night King weren't going to be the ultimate big bad, then that should have ended last season. And then we could have got an entire full season of the, humans and the people backstabbing the politics that really the show was built on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I've been going back and forth on it. I loved it. Just moment of, we all knew this was going to be a battle of epic proportions. And I do think that they delivered on a pretty epic battle. It kept me, for instance, on the edge of my seat for the 80 minutes that it was on. And I was trying to figure out what are their feelings. Some of them were sad. Some of them were, had surprising reactions. And it really showed, I think, real feelings of war and wartime. So I do think it was pretty realistic in that. Not that I've ever been to war, but
thanks for serving.
But I don't know. And then also one scene that was really cool for me was the whites at the very beginning when they first hit, not the Dothraki, but when they actually hit Brienne's army and all of those people. It seriously looked like it was a waterfall coming at them. They were crashing into these people, and that was so cool. It was really cool to see. And it did give me a little Battle of the Bastards vibes when Jon Snow was completely, that scene where he's completely overwhelmed by everyone and almost trampled. So I do love that part. So I don't know, I do think that the Night King and the White Walkers I do agree, was a bit of a letdown. It really didn't touch on the White Walkers at all, which I thought was really weird. It kind of showed them sitting in the distance, and they didn't do anything at all, which is so weird to me. So I agree, but I also know that there's like 7 other prequels. So I know, like, there's like, I don't know if it's 7, but there's a ton of prequels and other stories. So I wonder if they're going to really touch on it there and like leave it kind of vague on purpose.
Yeah, and I got a thought on that I'd like to get your opinions on. Now,
Yeah.
obviously, they're going to do these prequels, which is awesome, and for fans of the show, that gives you something to kind of like throw your hat to that's coming down the road. But don't you think it does a disservice to the original story of Game of Thrones not to end it, or at least have like some kind of resolution with the White Walkers in Game of Thrones, and then you can kind of build or play off of that on the prequels?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. I feel like this was just like very rushed in terms of like the story ending for the Night King and the White Walkers. Like, we still don't necessarily know their history or like what their goal was, like, and why exactly like any of this happened. And
Yeah.
I feel like even in season 1, the very first episode, it started off with that like spiral pattern. Like, what is that about? Like,
Right.
what is any of this about?
Yeah, and they brought that back this season, and again, we still have no idea what that means.
Yeah, it's
No,
just like,
you're right.
what?
Why would you bring it up in the first place if you're not even going to go into the story of it?
Yeah, like,
That's true.
Can we address this, please?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm with you, Jade, though, on a few things there. Like the battle sequences and kind of the feeling that it left was really good. And I was with you the whole time, being like, I have no idea what's going to happen. And even as like the Night King was walking towards Bran, I was on the edge of my seat because I'm like, oh shit, like, is Bran now going to come and all of a sudden do something? Was he warging and that's going to be some crazy resolution?
Yeah.
But it didn't happen. So that's kind of what left me down. I think overall I really did like the episode, but I have a lot of nits to pick, I guess, that just didn't feel like they were well thought out.
That's fair. And I mean, I would say that this season, in my opinion, is similar to last season. And this is like the 2 seasons that are very different than the rest. And they do a lot of rushing. It's very clear. And so it is one of those where I think we were all hoping for something like absolutely amazing in previous seasons. And it is a little bit of a letdown that is kind of similar to like some of the other episodes that we've had lately.
Yeah. And we talked about this not on the recording, but on Slack, that George R.R. Martin is not, the books aren't written. So it's like,
yeah.
And I think the writers of the show maybe are not quite as talented, obviously, as George R.R. Martin. And so like a lot of the major plot twists and surprises and like major character deaths that happened in the earlier seasons, we're not getting that anymore. And I really wonder if that's a direct correlation of just the book's not written and the writers aren't quite as good.
I mean, I think that I think it is. It just sucks too, because I think we've talked about this before. I don't think he's ever going to finish it. And so I don't think, and I mean, I'm not going to read them, but I read the first one and I was like, I'm out. But it sucks because, and maybe I will if he does finish it, but I can't get myself to read it thinking that he like might pass, because then I would probably spend, like, it's going to take me a long time to get through that series. And so, and then just to know he died and like it never got finished, I would be so pissed.
Yeah, no, it's true. And then we're going to do a full debrief on Bran, but like, what was he doing the whole time? They made him out to be the most powerful guy in the, besides the Night King, and he was just sitting there contributing nothing.
I know. Like, why are you wogging or whatever and sending those crows?
Right.
And then like they're not doing anything.
Yeah, if the crows came back and got some like relevant recon about where they're at or where the Night King at, cool. But they just showed him flying, and then they cut back to Bran sitting in his little chair all creepy again.
That was so weird.
Very strange.
So weird.
Yeah. I have no words. Like,
I know.
Yeah.
What were you doing?
Let's save all the Bran, because we got a lot to talk about Bran.
I know. I do want to say one thing, just because me and Ryan had talked about this before, but I just finished watching Avengers Endgame yesterday, and so good. But Night King had some vibes, especially when him and Jon had that showdown when he was like bringing everyone back from the dead. It was very similar to that thing, like Thanos, and the scene in Endgame as well. So I thought that was like, I mean, I watched them like within 2 days of each other, but I was like, I'm getting a little Thanos Night King vibes over here.
Which is also ironic. You'd think the 2 major pop culture things that were happening, Avengers and Game of Thrones, they would have spaced it out a little bit, but that's a different pod, different story. My other beef, though, with this, and Jade was making fun of me today, was the cinematography. Now, I'm not talking necessarily about individual shots. Like, there were some unreal shots, like when Melisandre came and lit the Dothraki swords. That was cool as shit. even when the Dothraki ran off and got obliterated in seconds and their swords went out, that was cool as shit. So there was good cinematography, but overall, the darkness of it was just hard to watch. And I cannot be the only person complaining. I got some social media links I can put up in some show notes. I get what they were doing and trying to make it real to being like, this is at night. The Night King and the White Walkers are like this, cold force. But fuck, man, I wanted to see what was going on. Half the time I was like, who is that? What's going on? I literally felt like an old man.
I mean, you like.
I know I am, but don't make that joke, all right?
My comment was like, old man Ryan needs some glasses, just so everyone knows. Because, I mean, me and Francis talked about it too. And
I am not old, but I will agree. I will agree. It was very hard to see at times.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know if that's because like my TV quality is shit, or maybe we just need to turn up the brightness on that. But I was like, what is going on? Like half the time. And I was like, where are they? Like,
I mean,
it's very hard to tell it.
If they're doing that for part of it, I think that would have been awesome. Set the effect, get everyone to be like, this is what's happening, but you got to let us see it.
Mm-hmm. I didn't think it was that dark. I really didn't. I mean, I had all the lights out in my entire place already. And I think there were certain scenes where it was dark, but it was definitely for a reason. I don't know. I didn't have any complaints with it at all.
All right. That's fair.
It was at night. It was at night, and it was in a castle. Like, what do you expect? Like,
well,
what do you guys want? Fluorescent lights? Like, I just
need more like contrast, or like
exactly. There was other battles that they've done at night that worked. The Battle of Blackwater that worked. You could see what was happening there, and that was at dark.
I don't know. I feel like we need to go back and look at that episode, because I honestly don't think anyone would complain unless other people were complaining about it. Like, there's been night scenes where there's been some darkness, but they haven't taken up an entire episode. So I think that's the difference. Like, the Battle of Blackwater was very much like 15 minutes or 20 minutes or half of a show. It wasn't the entire part. And usually when they show King's Landing, it's very bright and airy and things like that.
I mean, fair points. But the whole battle was the entire episode, and making it hard to see. Like, and not the whole episode too. Like at the end when the Night King and Bran are there, then like the individual like battles that were happening as it played out, those were fine. Those actually looked really cool. But like the actual battlefield, and I think that's a decent segue to what we're getting into next, was really hard to see. But let's get into that. The battle strategy. The humans. What the fuck are you guys thinking?
I know.
The whole strategy was awful.
And you can kind of tell, like, I know we never talked about episode 2, but you can kind of tell when they all were around the table and you look down and you're like, what the fuck are they doing? That was basic as fuck. And they're trying to go and defend some dead army. Like, I cannot.
Yeah. And their big reveal, a big strategy was that fire pit that blocks off the people, from the castle, right? So they're going to use fire. Where the fuck are the dragons? Let's start with the dragons. Start having them sweep with their fire and just kill them that way. Like, start with that.
Yeah. The whole entire time, Danny and John were just flying around up in the clouds where they couldn't see shit. And I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, fly down a little lower and maybe just blast everyone with the dragon fire.
They're up there like Aladdin and Jasmine. Like, what the fuck, guys? Get down there and fight.
I did see that meme.
They're like, I can't see. Well, fly lower.
You guys know who they sound like? You two. Maybe that was like intended. Damn.
I don't know, Jay. What was your take? I mean, I would have used the dragons more.
Oh, for sure. I kind of found it like mind blowing. I was surprised. Like, I thought it was a very basic battle strategy, especially after like how beautiful and thought out the last war was with the Battle of the Bastards. That one was really cool, and it had like really cool, smart historical effects. And so I was hoping, and maybe I didn't do enough research on this, but I thought there would have been a little bit more like strategic play. Like, you have some of the best, warriors, knights, and, people there. And I felt like it could have been a lot smarter. And I mean, it's hard with like people who are dead, but at the same time, I felt like the directors would have pulled, like the directors or the writers or the producers could have pulled something out that was like totally, mind blowing, other than people just go in charge and then coming back. It was basic.
It was so basic. And also they basically just sent all the Dothraki to their death. And this is the army that everyone's scared of. They're supposed to be the most savage army, and they were completely wiped out. And then behind them you have the Unsullied.
I know.
Keep them in Winterfell so that when the White Walkers come, they can fight off everyone.
Right. Yeah.
And then on top of that, they have that fire trench blocking everyone from retreating. And it's this is so stupid.
But they also had the fire trench, and they saw that the whites were trying to kill themselves to get everyone else over. But it was weird that no one was at the top of the fire trench trying to just stab them with the spears. You should have had the fire trench,
fall behind the
Unsullied behind them, and then just stab them every time so they don't even get to fall. I didn't understand it.
I will say though,
the whole plan was just
I mean, the dragons just were not put to use, and I didn't understand any of it. I think my ending part was what the actual fuck out of everything, because it just didn't make any sense.
Yeah, I will say though, it did set the tone when the Dothraki got killed off. I was like, oh shit, it's going down. But it shouldn't have been the Dothraki. It should have been some worthless people that you can sacrifice. Maybe they get a little lucky, take a few out. But yeah, that was bizarre. I was not on board with the strategy. And the whole time I literally kept saying, where are the dragons? They were just nowhere to be found. So terrible job for them. But Melisandre comes back.
Yes.
And totally redeems herself.
Right? I have never, ever, ever wanted to see her pop up on my screen.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh my gosh, I am so happy to see you.
I was a little confused at first because I saw the person walking out. I'm like, oh, fuck, who is this? Who is this? And my stupid pea brain didn't think it would be her. But when she showed up, I was like, oh, shit. And then she lights the swords on fire. And it was this really awesome moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I honestly think she was the most helpful in this whole episode.
Oh, for sure. Which is weird. But I mean, that was her entire purpose throughout the series. She always said it, but I don't think that anyone believed it because of how many mistakes that she made beforehand.
They're just this crazy bitch.
I know.
Shut up.
Just killing kids, killing mid,
sticking
respect.
slugs on people.
But yeah, respect, but also who's gonna believe you?
Yeah. And she really, the character though, made a fantastic arc, I guess, or completion, because she was, like you said, a terrible character and no one liked her. And then all of a sudden she comes in, she basically lights the fire in the trench, she lights the fire in the Dothraki, and she gives Arya the pep talk that I guess fueled Arya to be like, oh, I'm the one that can go do this. She might be the MVP of this battle. Well, maybe not. Besides Arya,
right? But I mean, she inspired Arya, so that's the thing.
Yeah.
I did have a comment here too, and I'm probably going to butcher the name, but I know one of the things that when I looked at the Reddit after, and this is the whole thing about the red woman, is that she always talks about the prince who is promised, and her purpose there is to help that person, and that is her only purpose. And so the fact is she died, she won this war against the Night King, but the person that she helped was Arya. And so is Arya the prince who is promised, or Azor Ahai? I don't know how to say the name. Sorry, people who do. But yeah. And that's been the whole theory kind of throughout the show. Is a lot of people have tried to figure out who the prince who is promised is, as well as who Jon's parents are. So those are two big themes that have happened for the past couple of years. Or a few years at this point. And so I'm really curious about that, because that has a whole backstory in itself. Especially, it's a lot more prevalent in the books, but it is kind of touched upon on the show as well.
Yeah, and I think we'll get to that in a little bit in terms of who killed it, what to expect. I got one last thing on the Night King and the White Walkers, because to me it sure seems like they were not even of relevance. We wasted whole couple of seasons on them. My thought is, have you either of you heard of the term MacGuffin?
No.
Mm-mm.
Okay. I will read you the definition of it. In fiction, a MacGuffin is a plot device in the form of a goal, desired object, or other motivator that the protagonist pursues, often with little or no narrative explanation. The MacGuffin's importance to the plot is not the object itself, but rather its effect on the characters and their motivations. So I think the White Walkers were ultimately a MacGuffin. And what I mean by that is they were only there to get all of these characters united so that they could end up coming down and fighting Cersei.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
No, that's a good thought. I mean, it could be too that they're like a distraction of like they could have defeated them all along. Like John's mind was like, this is the real war. This is it. I don't care about anything else. And I mean, it was hard for them, but at the same time, they were able to accomplish it. And I'm very curious if it was kind of a distraction of, you know what, actually, it's like the living that you have to be a lot more scared of.
Right.
Which
I don't know if that's a MacGuffin.
Is that a MacGuffin and a MacGuffin?
I know, is it? I'm going to start using MacGuffin just like in everyday.
Completely out of context.
I want my biography, if anyone writes a book about me, to be called The Big Fucking MacGuffin.
I want to be like in a meeting. I want both of you guys in it. We all work together and just be like, so I, thought through the strategy and I kind of feel like we're at a MacGuffin right now. So just see like if anyone knows what I'm talking about.
Got to throw it out there. People out there that's listening, let's make that a real thing. Let's make it more common. MacGuffins.
Word of the day.
Word of the day, MacGuffin. All right, so let's go into the characters. And obviously one of my big takeaways too, and I'm not sure if it's a nitpick or what, but there's a lot of really major characters who are still alive. So in this episode, we had a lot of awesome characters. We had some people who kind of shied away, some deaths. Who do you think was, besides Arya, some of the big winners of the Battle of Winterfell?
Arya. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
No, I know, but I just cannot stress enough.
Well, let's talk about her, because even in that episode, she made a nice comeback, because she ultimately, halfway through it looked like she was potentially going to get killed off, and she was really nervous, and she found herself. She found her true warrior. So I thought that was really cool that it all happened within that episode.
But she was a smart warrior. Like even in the parts that she was struggling, she like did everything very, like, I don't know anyone else in that show could have done, especially that library scene, could have done it the way she did it. Like
she
quiet
kept her
she
cool.
Kept her cool. Like you could tell she was so scared, but at the same time, like, yeah, Beric and the Hound were able to help her towards the end, but she still like survived in a whole library full of whites and like was very smart about it. And I still think that still plays to like how amazing of a warrior she is and a survivor that she is.
I mean, she's been training like her whole life, like
at this point,
and so I think that just goes to show like she put to use what she knows and like who she truly is like this super fucking ninja. And like she can just sneak around. I mean, clearly, like she got past all the whites and killed the Night King. So it's like this is kind of who she is now.
That scene, I don't know if you guys have seen the original Jurassic Park. It felt to me a little bit like when the two kids are avoiding the raptors in the kitchen. They're like sneaking around and hiding through a thing. Felt a little like that. Maybe a hat tip there.
Maybe.
Hey, just throwing it out there.
No, I mean, you're probably right. It's been years since
Jurassic Park. And that was like the original suspense like movie of our generation. So I think maybe they did it subconsciously, but who knows?
Me and Francis are a little younger than you.
Again, all right, fine. It was my generation, but everyone's seen Jurassic Park.
Again, Ryan, you're old.
I think we were like 6. I don't know. Just like not gonna look it up, but
I was very young when that movie came out too. So I'm just saying, of the past maybe 25, 30 years, that was a cultural landmark of suspense movies.
25 years ago, Francis was like 2 years old.
What, you weren't watching Jurassic Park?
What?
So you weren't watching Jurassic Park as a toddler?
She probably did. I mean, I remember scenes, but I just like can't pinpoint that particular one.
All right, well, homework assignment, rewatch the movie and tell me if you think it reminds you of that scene. But then also, we touched on Beric a little bit, who sacrificed himself for Arya. Yeah. Awesome job by him. I think his storyline was, for a really smaller character, did a really good job of completing his arc. That's kind of a theme for this epised.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool that he was killed 9 times, kind of like 50 Cent, and like came back
just many men wish death upon Beric.
Yeah. Jorah was great. I thought Grey Worm's scenes of like how he had to lead. I mean, he essentially was leading his like infantry to literally die, you know?
Yeah.
And I think showing that is because they didn't really do that with Brienne or Jamie, who also had like their own fleet of people. But like how they showed the emotion with him of like how he had to make the call to draw back, how he had to like leave some of his men out there when he put his helmet on. Like I thought that was very powerful. And it showed as emotionalist as he is, like it showed a lot of his emotions.
For sure. I feel like that added like a humanness to him because like he's just this warrior. He was like enslaved and that's like all he's known his whole life. And I feel like it really showed like this whole other side to him. Like in this.
It's kind of shocking he survived though, isn't it?
It is.
Do we know that he survived?
I think he did.
I think he's in the trailer for the next episode.
Oh. See, I keep forgetting to watch the trailers before we record. Did you watch it?
Yeah.
Oh.
But I think he lived. And
okay.
I think Ghost lived too.
Yeah, Ghost does live. That's confirmed too.
He's like a small little blob, like
in the corner.
In the corner.
Yeah, it's not the best showing, but he does survive. But the Night King, well, ultimately he dies, and it doesn't seem like it's that climactic in the way it happened. He was pretty badass in this episode. Like the little smirk he gave to Dany when he didn't die after the fire, he was just like, "Fucking bring it."
Yeah. And the way he just like stared at Jon. And it just raised everyone like from the dead. I was like, holy shit.
I know.
It gave me chills.
Yeah. I wish I was
thought it was gonna be like a whole like Star Wars like type of thing, like Luke, I am your father. And I was like, oh my god, is he a Targaryen? Like
I was with you, Fran, because that was I read this. I wish I was smart enough to think of this on my own, but that was apparently the third time the Night King has kind of like stared directly at Jon like that, and nothing's kind of happened. So I thought the same thing. I was like, oh shit, are they about to reveal something? Like, and ultimately we're not gonna get it unless it happens in the prequels.
I mean, maybe there is something happening in the last 3 episodes that we just don't know that explains like more of the Night King. Because it now that you mention it, there are so many hints throughout the series. It's weird that they would have it just leave that way,
right?
Without any answers, you know?
I mean, you're right. It's totally possible. And I hope so, because there are a lot of stuff that's unanswered. And that's why my initial take on that episode was a little negative. Just because there's so much that we still don't really know, which I guess is fine, but who knows? Maybe they do address it again.
Right. And maybe it's like the best storytelling ever, and we're all just like idiots because we don't know the last 3 episodes. But if we back and rewatched it, it would be like, this was perfect, you know?
Yeah. I would be remiss to leave this section not to mention the Hound. I thought what they did with him in this episode was fantastic, because throughout the entire show, the Hound is portrayed as being this big badass who's like the most feared warrior, fears nothing. And like everyone else, like that's human, he was afraid as shit and was hiding. And it was Beric who basically reminded him that, oh, Arya needs your help. And it was the connection they had with Arya that got him back into the battle. I thought that was just great.
Right. Yeah, no, I think I had a thing where it's like who absolutely slayed, who fell flat, and who was surprising, and Hound was like completely surprising in every way. But I do like that connection was really what like woke him up from it. So yeah, I don't know if I have too much to say.
He's obviously scared of fire because of like what happened to him with his brother.
Yeah.
And
I
so
didn't even put that together.
Yeah, but like I love that the thing that like snapped him out of it was seeing like Arya like scared out of her mind, and he was like, I need to be brave for her. I need to suck it up. And then he just like, you know, grew some balls and was like back at it.
And we've talked about this, but that's what Thrones does best, is these character developments, and they use characters and situations in ways you wouldn't expect it to be like, wow, I just saw a different side of that character that I did not expect.
And it's in such a realistic way, because it's like some of the most like strong people in the world, like that you would expect to be like thriving in certain situations, end up freezing, and it's such a human trait. So it was good. I did want to touch on the people who fell flat, just like briefly. I thought Sansa, Jon, Dany, and Sam, as well as obviously Bran, but we'll get to him. But like Sansa, Jon, Dany, and Sam were just very disappointing. I think with like the way that they've all, except for Sam, been portrayed as like these strong leaders, these strong characters, how they reacted throughout the entire scene. Like, I think before I was like, I could see one of them on the throne, like any one of them, and it would be good. And then like after this, I'm like, they were not they didn't do a good job. Like and I don't know if that was on purpose or does that make a good leader or what, but it just was very like it was so flat for all three of them. And they are the people who are in charge.
Yeah, it just like showed they are not like good leaders.
Or they're
like
good
at least
like they're
at
not
least in
good
these
fighters.
situations. Yeah.
They're good leaders. Because I love Arya and Arya is a killer, but could she rule an entire like Seven Kingdoms?
Yeah.
That's not the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, when you think of someone like Cersei, though, she's not the one doing the battle. She's the one being the badass bitch that's like, making the move. Yeah. So I think Sansa, and even there was a line I think in the episode where Sansa and Tyrion wanted to go and like help, and they're like, you can't do anything. You're better off in here. So my big knock on this is Jon and Dany, who are supposed to be the leaders and the badass fighters who have that combo and that you'd get behind. They just didn't show it. They didn't show it. They had no regard for what they were doing.
Yeah, but even when Sansa went down to the crypt, she just wasn't the most warm. Like, I know she was scared and like didn't send a good message, but I also think as a leader, like you have to like you stay humble and honest, but at the same time you stay empowered and like positive. And like if I were down in that crypt and I saw her walk down, I'd be like, we're all fucked. Because it would just be the most depressing thing ever because she wasn't inspiring anyway either. Like it just wasn't to me. Even though she can't fight and she shouldn't fight, she still had another responsibility. And I don't think that she like succeeded in that.
I think that's fair.
She's their queen. At the end of the day, she's their queen. And like, why would I have someone rule me who can't even like rule?
I think you're coming from this from like a marketing PR perspective. You're like, this is horrible messaging.
Well, that's how I look at life. But
I mean, I get it though. It's like she, like at that point for her, she's like, I honestly don't know if we're gonna make it.
Yeah.
And honestly, like when she and Tyrion had their little moment, like I was like, are they gonna just do like a suicide pact right now?
I thought that too. I literally said, I was like, are they about to go Romeo and Juliet in the crypts?
I was like, holy shit. But then they just went off and like hid in some little corner. And I was like, well, that was anticlimactic.
It was.
Like,
yeah, that stuff was a little weird. That one. I don't know what's happening. But the theme, though, we think was the badass woman of the episode, led by our favorite character, Arya, or at least my favorite. She fucking killed it. Brienne looked badass, but I do say I'm a little surprised Brienne survived this because there was points where they cut over to her and there was about like 50 White Walkers on top of her.
Well, at the beginning, especially, like I was like, "Oh, she's dead," and then like, all of a sudden, I'm like, "No, there was no way she could have survived that."
Also,
no
like I could have sworn her like knighting ceremony in the last episode was like, okay, she's dead.
Her farewell, yeah, because it was a natural like point for her to be like, all right, she's gonna die on the battlefield, a brave like heroic knight. And there's at least two different points, especially in the beginning when they all like approach her. She was on the front lines.
Yeah.
And showed her getting in the castle, getting covered next to Jaime, who also, I'm surprised, is alive. But I know this is a really cool topic. So who else you got besides, I think we covered Melisandre. Like, who else do you think really stole the show here in terms of the female power?
I mean, come on. Lyanna?
How did we forget her?
Yeah.
Marmont.
Yeah. How could you forget about her and the giant? Like,
bad job by me.
Just her screaming at him.
Yeah.
And then just fucking go away.
Right in the eye.
Yes. Just like, yes, little girl, yes.
Unbelievable. Yeah. And we had her down because we're going to get to the deaths, but
she
was fucking unbelievable. And that character grew from such a small role to a one that like every fan was behind and was like, oh, like that death hit me the hardest of all the people that died.
I know. Especially, because when she came back and like opened her eyes, you were like, oh, she's gone. She's gone.
Yeah, she's gone.
Yeah. No, it just like even beforehand, I think when Sam was like walking through at the beginning, they showed her behind him, just like running orders, telling people what to do. She was on it the entire time. I don't know if it's like being a kid. She didn't have she lost a lot in her life, but like, she was a fighter. Like it was cool. She was a fighter. She survived a long time. And I am pouring one out right now for her. Like pour
one out.
Pour one out. Love her.
Yeah. And that's the segue to the deaths of the character. So a lot of people are still alive that I thought were going to die. So should we first address the fallen soldiers, the ones who lost their character lives in this episode?
Yeah, that would be
All right,
good.
let's get to Theon.
Yeah.
Theon has been a point of contention, at least for myself. I think he came to a good resolution. Like he defended Bran. I don't know. I'm so split on this character. Like I think he had a good end. Like Bran was like, "You're a good man, Theon," which is I think really debatable. But his death, I don't know. I mean, we talked about it that we think it's stupid that he's going to be the only one defending Bran. What's your take on Theon and his ultimate death?
I think ultimately his decision to just charge straight at the Night King was really stupid.
Right.
I was like, at least zigzag. Like, what are you doing? But
Stop it. I don't know if zigzagging would have done anything.
zigzag, like,
Well, I made a note in our thing that it's just like Rickon at the Battle of the Bastards. He just ran fucking straight. Like, did the humans not know about zigzag back then?
But what is for Night King? What does zigzag have to do with anything?
I don't know.
He was gonna die either way.
yeah.
My thought
No,
was, why not save one of those fucking dragon glass arrows for the Night King? You know he was coming.
No, I know that was like where I agree with you on that, the arrow. Because like one of the things I saw on Reddit was that apparently like the Greyjoys are known for the really good bow and arrow skills, and like you could see them use that while they were defending the brand and like the tree. And for them to like really showcase that and show how good they were at like defending until the Night King showed up was kind of disservice, because it's like Theon should also know this, but then it's like also Theon grew up in Winterfell, so maybe he isn't the best. I don't know. There's so many different thoughts on it, but why didn't he use a bow and arrow? I just don't understand that.
So bizarre to me.
Well,
but
he was also out. They did show him out of it.
No, I know. They showed him out, but like if I was Theon and I know I'm defending Bran against the Night King, I'm saving at least one fucking arrow.
Are you? Or are you just trying to survive?
I mean,
we're not soldiers. Remember that.
At the end of the day, I think he was just like ready to die. He was like, my job here is done. I defended my home. I'm where I'm supposed to be. How I want to go out is just charging straight onto the Night King.
Yeah. He went full Biggie Smalls, ready to die.
I would have zigzagged, but
I would have waited for the Night King to come closer. Like if I knew I was gonna die, I wouldn't just charge stupidly. I would be like, you would have to come at me and literally pry me off of you before, like, because I would be like over Bran in his wheelchair and be like, you're gonna have to pry me off of you because this is not happening.
But I think like that's also like his way to like try to be brave.
Yeah.
You know,
fighting mentality. Yeah.
But it's just like poor Theon.
Yeah. But that leads us to another guy who died the way he wanted to, Sir Jorah Mormont, the patron saint of the friend zone, as I'm calling him. He died defending Dany. I think that was just the way that character was set up for like 5 straight seasons. So for me, I wasn't sad to see him go, but it just felt like a natural end to his story.
Yeah, I think this death was definitely like the most predictable.
Yeah.
Like, we knew he was going to sacrifice himself for Dany. And I think that truly is like the only way that he pictured it too, like by Dany's side, just because he's been by her side this whole time and he's been in love with her. So I think that's what he would have wanted either way.
Yeah. I love the patron saint of the friend zone. So amazing.
I mean, he was friend zoned hard for every episode he was in.
Yeah,
that's true love.
That is. So he's a heroic death. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm surprised guys like Brienne, or like girls like Brienne or Tormund, and even like Sam, who a lot of times got saved by the Whites. These guys are all still alive. So now we got 3 episodes left. A ton of really important characters who are still alive.
Yeah. I definitely thought that Jaime was still gonna live, so I'm not surprised by that. Tormund, I'm not actually that surprised by that, like him living. Brienne, I'm super surprised because like you just like everyone could feel the moment she got knighted. Like that was, you didn't even have to look on any online source to just feel that she was gonna die.
Yeah, that was like a bye.
Yeah. Girl, bye, but you deserve it.
You got knighted and bye. But no, she's still alive.
Yeah.
It's weird, but let's get to Bran because I have so many questions
pause real quick? I just want to pour some more wine because there is.
Pour one out.
Yeah.
Pour one out for Liana.
Pour one out into my glass. She would love it. She would love for me to pour some for her. All right.
So Bran, we'll talk about his character and everything. I have a couple thoughts on Bran. A, what was he doing the whole time? Because it's sure as shit they made it out like he was going to be the ultimate and equal like fight against the Night King, but he ultimately was doing nothing. He was just flying around warging like he was wearing some kind of like virtual reality headset, like shredding the gnar somewhere.
Yeah, I have no idea. I honestly, he has irritated me since the moment he's fallen out of that window.
Oh, wow, hot take.
I'm sure he's more irritated. Okay?
He definitely is.
Parallel.
But I can't stand him. And like the fact that we have had to follow this entire, like his entire story and him to do absolutely nothing while this whole thing was going on, that he was like, so like, you know, not amped up because he doesn't get amped up, but like telling everyone about it. Just like, I know he couldn't do anything, but I feel like he could have done something.
Yeah. I mean, he's the fucking three-eyed raven.
He can get all of the animals to attack. Like, I just don't understand.
Like, for someone that can see past, future, and present, like, he did not provide any useful information to anyone during that battle.
Nothing.
And like, I feel like this whole season he's just been very underwhelming. Like, he's been funny in his creepy parts. Like, I don't even know if that's meant to be funny. But like, other than that, he's been completely useless.
Yeah.
And they built him up as this like anti-Night King, and he was going to be the one who kills or at least helps to defeat the Night King. And now what do you do with Bran? Like, how the hell is Bran now going to help or do anything? Is he going to like start predicting the future and telling, you know, Starks what's happening? Like, I have no idea what his storyline is now.
Yeah. I mean, maybe he did help the Night King because he knew the Night King would come to him and knew that. I don't know. I'm just like, the more I think about it, the more like, I'm just like,
yeah,
it may be, but also I still don't like it.
I just like, I hope in these next 3 episodes, they do kind of lean into his powers a little bit more, like, and explain that more. Like, what does this do other than him warging into fucking ravens?
I just don't know what his purpose could be anymore at this point. Like, I don't think he cares about who takes the Iron Throne.
It sure doesn't seem like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it is just like, I know there's got to be more, but also I wouldn't be surprised if there's not. And if there's not, he's literally the most disappointing, annoying character of the entire series.
But I also feel like Game of Thrones in general, like they tend to do better with like the politicking and kind of like House of Cards aspect of the show.
But what Bran has shown that he doesn't care.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like they're not very good with like the whole like magic aspect.
That's fair.
So like maybe in these last 3 seasons they'll lean more into it and like explain more of that. But I wouldn't be surprised if they don't.
Yeah, I had a crazy hot take that when the Night King was walking up to Bran, I thought the Night King was going to bend the knee and Bran was going to be the ultimate big bad guy. I thought that was a major cool twist, but it didn't happen.
I know. I think that's been like a rumor for a couple seasons now that Bran is the Night King.
Yeah.
Or the Night King like actually reports to Bran. I would have loved that. I would have loved anything except for like what happened, which was nothing. Bran did nothing.
Nothing. Yeah. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting what they do with his storyline. But like we're predicting, or what we think is going to happen next, is now it's going to get down to the humans and who's going to ultimately sit on the throne. So the big question now, we've defeated the White Walkers. The Night King is dead. What happens with Jon and Dany? What are they going to do?
Honestly, I feel like the whole conversation from last episode was not addressed at all.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, if I were Jon now, I would be like, Dany, you are a useless bitch. Like,
but Jon is a useless bitch too. They both are useless bitches. Like, I don't like. I'm still confused. I think they had each other's back, which I think shows like their loyalty and their love. But at the same time, there was nothing like monumental for us to be.
Though? Like, did they?
Maybe
have each
it was
back?
so bad because they like didn't trust each other anymore. Maybe that's why.
Because remember, like she like completely dropped the plan once she saw the Dothraki like wiped out. She's like, fuck this, I'm taking my dragon. And so then he was just forced to like follow her.
Yeah,
That's interesting
like, everything just fell apart.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, maybe for John to be as dumb as he is and have like the shittiest like timing out of any human alive, for him to tell Dany right before the night they're supposed to like fight, actually was why this turned out so awful and why they were so disappointing.
Yeah.
Ooh, I like that. All right.
But then if that happened, in that case, I hope neither of them get the Iron Throne. Just want to throw that out there because that's petty as fuck.
Well, now there's a lot of it turned into Days of Our Lives.
Not petty.
What I was interesting though is now like all these main characters are alive, so there's got to be some infighting. Like, do you think any of the characters who just survived the Battle of Winterfell are going to betray one another?
Oh, definitely.
But
who do we think it's going to be?
I feel like after this whole like big battle, like there's no way that like they don't have some kind of bond with each other.
No, because before, like their parents were in the same situation to take over Westeros, and their parents, like they all get in these fights and they're on the same like teams.
Yeah.
And then one of them betrays the other because of like allegiances or politics or something like that. Like, and I mean, Sansa and Dany, like, come on. Like, when she was like, what are you going to do about the North? I was like, yeah, Dany, what are you going to do? Like, like that smile between Dany, the whole interaction, like, that is definitely crumbling.
Yeah.
That like also wasn't resolved though.
Like, no, I mean, she got, I mean, how do you even resolve that? Like, they would have just sat there, like, we're two women, we know, like, you would just sat there looking at each other the way they did, and then just one have made an exactly, one would have made an excuse, like, I have to go to the bathroom. Good talk.
See you out there.
Yeah, if she wasn't interrupted, like, they would have never resolved that, because, like, they both knew they were never gonna agree on that.
Yeah.
I low-key hope Sansa kills Dany.
Ooh.
Oh.
Okay. I actually think Jon's going to kill Dany.
Whoa.
Yeah. I don't know why. I think it's going to have to do with Sansa, though. Either Sansa and Arya is going to come to odds with Dany, and I think Jon is going to defend them.
I honestly don't think Dany's going to die. Do I think she's going to have the Iron Throne? No. But do I think she's going to die? No.
See, I don't think there's... I think that's mutually exclusive. I think she's either got the throne or she dies. I don't think she can be in the picture and not on the throne.
Her whole thing has been like, I want the Iron Throne.
Yeah.
And so I think she either has it.
So the whole series like is a song of fire and ice. So if she doesn't have it, I mean, playing off of fire or ice, like one has to have it. So is it either someone from Winterfell or some like a Targaryen or a Stark? Like that's where I end at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But I was like,
maybe it's both. Maybe
it could be both. That's
I mean, yeah, Dawn, fire and ice. He's both. That's true.
Yeah.
But he also doesn't want it.
I just don't think he'll take it.
Also, I feel like people that
maybe he'll take it knowing that if Dany survives and they're like married and he's like, you can have it most of the time.
But do they even like still like each other at this point?
I mean,
good question.
You guys both know relationships are complicated.
Complicated things.
I guess that's true.
I don't know.
My only this is like totally off topic too, is that we now have spent 2 episodes without Cersei, who is the most compelling villain on the show right now. And I think the most compelling villain from day one, and we had nothing from her. So I'm very curious to see like how they're going to resolve her in 3 episodes. But I think there's just so much left. So give me some predictions for what you guys think is going to happen in this next episode.
Yeah, so I didn't really think about predictions. You guys like saw me obsessing about who was left on the houses. And I literally went through like 3 Wikipedia pages trying to figure out it because I think that has a very important part of what's going to come next. And I also like there's 12 people at Winterfell. They need help to defeat her. And so I'm trying to figure out who else is left in Westeros to help them.
It's got to be Yara, right? And the Greyjoys?
The Greyjoy, they don't have a big enough like army, and I think half of them are with Euron.
Yeah, that's true.
If not most of them.
I know, Jade, you didn't watch the trailer for this next episode, but they show a lot of Euron and Cersei, and I have a bad feeling that there's going to be a drawn-out like backstory, or like there's going to be a lot of Euron and Cersei, which I don't need. I don't care for that. Like the Euron character, I fucking hate.
Yeah.
Give me the characters we're invested in, and let's go from there.
No, you're right. I kind of saw the preview. I just saw one still where it was like Euron behind Cersei at one point.
Yeah.
That's all I noticed.
I hope that the episode plays out where it's like a lot of the human interactions and politics and planning, and then they teased a little bit of the battle scene. I'm hoping that that's like the end of the episode, which leads into the next episode.
So you think there's going to be immediately another battle and then an aftermath?
I think.
Yeah, I think this episode is going to be
Second to
like
last episode will be an aftermath.
No, will be battle.
Oh, battle. Okay.
yeah, it's either going to be
at the end of this one.
episode 5 is another big battle, and then 6 is like figuring out who gets the throne and like tying up loose ends.
Where do you think the battle is going to take place?
I don't know. I mean, they kept showing like boats and stuff on sea. It's got to be in King's Landing, right? Everyone's going for the throne. Like I think they marched south to King's Landing.
I just love when they show Winterfell to King's Landing in like one episode versus like an entire season. I'm like, what?
Yeah, they really have taken some liberties with how quickly it takes to move across Westeros. In the past
I
couple
think in the teaser, Jon and Dany were also at, where is she from? Like Dragonstone? Is that what it's called?
Here.
Wherever they found like all that dragon glass shit.
Oh yeah. I had it written down and then I deleted it.
But yeah.
Was it No, it wasn't Harrenthal.
No, that's not where the Targaryens from.
No.
But yeah, I think it shows them back
Dragonstone,
where Dany is originally from.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
On the way to Westeros? I mean, on the way to King's Landing?
I have no idea.
Okay. So I'm just going to do a brief little thing before Brian's like, okay, we're done. I'm like, I just want to give everyone a recap of where all of the other houses are, because I had to look this up and I just feel like it's good for everyone to know.
It is, because we were wondering who's going to come help the people that survived Winterfell.
Yeah. Okay. So Starks, obviously, in Winterfell. The Vale. So people are under the assumption that they were at Winterfell and helped fought, because Littlefinger brought them there at the end of Battle of the Bastards. I don't know about that, but also they have no one in charge, right?
Right.
Okay.
Well, no, they have Robin of Aaron, the little boy.
Oh yeah, the kid.
Yeah, but I thought they had no one. But okay, so they have the kid.
Yeah.
But I do think that they're helping, but I don't know if that was ever explicitly said. And then Lannister, obviously Cersei rules it, so like they're a team, Cersei, so that's fine. King's Landing, same. Targaryen is Dany is in Winterfell. She doesn't have like, are there any other Targaryens, like House of Targaryen or like anything like that?
I think it's just her.
But did they burn like lords and things like that and other like everything? Yeah. Okay. House Tully of Riverlands, which was House Tully or Riverlands, and then it was House Tully and the House Frey. But now they're both without a ruler.
Mm-hmm. They're like basically gone.
They're gone, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And then Tyrell is gone too.
Yep. From Highgarden.
Yeah.
I like that. So the Wikipedia article was like, it didn't say that everyone's gone. It just was like without a ruler. Because I mean, there's peasants and people who live there. They just don't have a ruler, right? Is that this? I mean, that's the assumption.
Well, like the house is like the actual like family.
Right. But I mean, there's still people who are soldiers who like could fight. I'm thinking about what are the troops that can support them. So even if they don't have like a ruler, it doesn't mean that there's not people in that like strip of area that if they tried to recruit them, they could go fight for them.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about people, guys.
Let's not forget though, we only got 3 episodes left, so I don't know if they're going to be pulling like obscure people in for this.
I mean, I don't think they're going to bring in any new characters, but maybe they're like, oh, the people from the Riverlands came to help us. Never
Kind of like in
know.
Lord of the Rings, everyone shows up at the end.
Yeah. Okay. House Greyjoy. We know. Chilling in Iron Islands. Half of them are with Euron and King's Landing. I would assume it's split, right?
I think Yara has like a small little fleet
Yeah.
of like her own people.
Right. They
So
said
that's it.
Highgarden's dead. Baratheon of Storm's Inn. They're dead.
Except for Gendry.
But if he doesn't have an army, that's just useless. Because I thought, didn't they all die in the war with the White Walkers? Like, because Stannis brought them to the wall to fight, and I think they all died.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't have an army. And then Dorne or House Martell. And
Dorne could come back. I think that's a possibility.
Well, see, I think too, though, you guys were confusing because Ilaria or whatever, she's a sand snake. She's not part of Dorne or Martell. Like, so those are two different types of things. Like,
she was married to a Martell.
Yeah, but was she in control of Dorne after that?
They had taken control.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Sand Snakes had taken control.
Right.
And then they pledged allegiance to the Targaryens.
Yeah, they killed Oberyn's brother.
Yeah, and then Ilaria was taken prisoner by the Lannisters.
Right.
That's like the last time we saw her. So she's still at King's Landing, I think.
I feel like Dorne will come for her then.
I think if any house were to like come back into play other than like the main ones, it would definitely be her.
Yeah.
And like her family.
Yeah, I could see that, which is kind of weird because apparently, like, again, I looked at a wiki for this. Dorne like wanted nothing to do with the last war when the Targaryens and like all of that were fighting. Yeah. So it'd be interesting this time around for them to like have to fight. But I mean, they got screwed pretty much. So
it's going to be interesting. All right, final thoughts before next week's episode. Anything we want to put on people's radar to watch for?
I mean, I think everyone will have a close look on Cersei.
Mm-hmm. I think she's pregnant.
Yeah. That's just like, I don't even know what to think of that. They better touch on Bran, if not this episode, like episode 5.
Yeah. I think the Cersei pregnancy is going to come into play where that's going to be what Jaime uses to kill her. Like he's going to find out that Cersei's claiming it's Euron's baby, and I think that's when he kills Cersei, or that's going to be the device that kills Cersei. Because isn't that the prophecy that like the younger sibling kills her?
Yeah, that's a prophecy. But I still think Arya will kill her because of that kill list.
That's true. All right. Well, let's keep a lookout for those. Franny, you got anything you want to see?
I hope they go more into Bran and like his powers.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he's just completely useless. And
I have a feeling it's going to be a slow episode. So, yeah.
Well, let's see. Everyone tune in on Sunday, and then we'll give you guys another digest recap of everything that goes down next week. Thanks for coming on, Jade and Franny.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.